সাবস্ক্রাইব করে বেল নোটিফিকেশন আইকন অন করতে ভুল করবেন না বিভিন্ন রকম লিগ্যাল ফ্র্যাটার্নিটি রিলেটেড আপডেটস পেতে আপনার আমার মাতৃভাষা বাংলাতে।
হ্যালো গাইস, ওয়েলকাম ব্যাক টু দ্য চ্যানেল অ্যাডভোকেটাস অর্ডিনিয়াস। আমি হচ্ছি তোমাদের বন্ধু আবু হেনা।
A very good morning to my esteemed co-panelists, judges, honorable judges of the Supreme Court, Chief Justices, some of who are my friends present in the audience, ladies and gentlemen, the student community. I just wanted to touch upon 2-3 issues. May not be completely correct at this point in time, but just 2 personal stories which happened to me or which took place in my life in the last 1 month. One is our cook, we used to call her Shondhadi. Shondhadi's son had done his MA in Bengali, and he wanted to be, and it was his dream to become a professor of Bangla in West Bengal. We tried to help him as much as we could. Our friends who are teaching we personally spoke to one friend who was in Surendranath College, in Surendranath College, teaching Bangla. Ultimately, he joined one of the food delivery services, Zomato. The other story is of the person who used to drive our car, Mongorajda. He was a man from Odisha. His son had taken a course in computers, wanted to become trained a computer professional. Mongoraj passed away 3 weeks back. I still have an ache in my heart because somebody who drove my car, I have a lot of memories about him. And his son now is working as a kind of a part-time laborer in a construction company in one of the districts in Odisha. These stories are not of the legal profession, but can easily be transposed to what we see in the legal profession today. Both were boys, Shondhadi's son, Mongoraj's son. So my point is that inequality is of course about gender, is of course about representation of women, and we are glad to see a bill, we are glad to see the women representation in the panel, the presence of women in the audience. But inequality is also about any person who is disadvantaged, who has a question of race, who has an issue of language, who has a personal problem or a lack of training on communication skills, on minority groups, somebody who has to travel from the villages to reach the cities in order to come to the court, in order to get a legal education, somebody who cannot afford affordable housing in order to come and get that legal education, somebody who can't go or cannot afford fees to go to a college. Inequality happens at every level of our society. Anybody who faces a kind of a discrimination feels that I am a child of a lesser God because I have not had the privilege, I have been born on the wrong side of privilege. That, according to me, is one of our failings. For every success story in our society, and now we are a community, we are a society, we are only focused on celebrities and success stories. But for every success story, there are thousands and lakhs who have not been able to get there because of a lack of opportunity, because of a lack of good education, because of the accident of being born in a family which could not give him or her or the third gender that opportunity. So I think collectively, we all have a responsibility to not only suggest and recommend measures to correct, to give society one of those pleasant shocks, to wake society up, to implement those measures, but also in a personal level. I mean, I was just telling Justice Dr. Dipankar to me that one of my colleagues in the Calcutta High Court was telling me just last month that there are many in the profession, and he mentioned some names, who are engaged in seniors' chambers, doing all the drafting, preparing notes of arguments, but when they go and ask for not even an honorarium, even the cost, the transport expense to reach the High Court, even that is not given to them. And so it's a cycle of disempowerment, because you are told, and that is exactly the discussion which I had with my colleagues, because you are told that, very well, if you can't do it, there are 20 others who will do your work. So then what is the choice you have? You want to remain, you want to just be one of the hundreds who will have the opportunity to do that draft, to make that notes of arguments, because you don't want to lose that opportunity. So because you're dreaming that one day you will be better off. So what I feel is that inequality or inequality begets more inequality, and disempowerment begets more disempowerment. The brighter side is like Justice Suman said, Justice Palli said, Mr. Kumbhakoni, Justice Dotto before that. The brighter side is there was a trickling of women coming into the profession. I have some data, but I don't want to repeat it because they've already been told. That's already been told. And then with that trickle, it becomes a frequency increases and then it becomes a flood. So we are happy today to be in the transition of a flood where we don't have to worry about women coming into the profession or women coming into positions of responsibility, whether as judges, whether as administrators, whether as members, elected members. We don't have to worry about that. So the brighter side is, as more and more people come into the profession and the profession opens up in terms of opportunities and responsibilities, we also must look to the other side, where those who are being kept out, it doesn't become a flood in that aspect also. Because imagine a person who comes from Bosirhat in a district in West Bengal to the courts and tries to eke a living for about 4 years and sees that he or she is not getting anywhere. What is the chance that person will go and tell his or her neighbors, friends and relatives that, very well, we should probably try to look for opportunities in Bosirhat itself instead of the Calcutta High Court or instead of one of the district courts in Calcutta. So that disencouragement, that discouragement, that disempowerment, that is something which we should stop in its tracks. And just a few recommendations. We go on thinking, we go on focusing on practicing, on joining a law firm in terms of opportunity and in terms of final success. But we should not lose our sights on other alternatives. Like, what about teaching law? What about legal journalism? I mean, now you have all these legal databases, very good, very empowering work, responsible work, I would say. Teaching law, extremely privileged. I mean, if you can make a generation of good lawyers, inspire young students. I see so many in front of us today. Young students with dreams in their eyes to become good lawyers, to become good professionals. That's extremely inspiring, and it's a privilege. So we should also think of alternatives and not only train our sights on what we think traditionally are success stories. And of course, Justice Dotto mentioned about mentoring, extremely important. I would request the Bar Council of India, doing excellent work, if you can arrange for counseling sessions. I mean, there may be so many students who need competent and effective counseling sessions to advise them. And then if you can have some sort of a compulsory system for lawyers to do pro bono work. We have the legal services authorities from the state and the high courts, that every lawyer will get some sort of a recommendation or brownie points if that lawyer does pro bono work for the disadvantaged sections of society, for the marginalized. So you make that compulsory in the curriculum so that busy lawyers who don't have time, they can't give the excuse that, look, we are so busy, we don't have the time. So they are made to do compulsory pro bono work for their colleagues, for others who need that help. And lastly, what I wanted to say is that we must stop the snowballing effect, and we cannot allow ourselves to forget that inequality is everywhere. It is up to us in our own small ways, even as judges. I'm sure, I mean, in my courts, I make it a practice that if I see juniors who normally don't appear in my court, I make their seniors sit down and I make them argue for at least 15-20 minutes every time, and I tell them that next day you argue, and tell the senior that you please take your seat and ask your junior to argue and ask your junior to get ready. So I think, even apart from judges, as lawyers, all of you have, I can see passion in your eyes, and if we have that compassion in our hearts, we can absolutely make a difference. And thank you, Bar Council of India. It's an extremely important topic, and I wish and I hope that we actually come up with an SOP as to how to make a difference by way of leveling out, creating a level playing field. Thank you very much.